So I'll call this meeting to order. Um, Welcome, everyone. And first up, just approving our minutes from November 6th. I'll make a motion. Does anyone? Second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So first up, just a couple of updates. One about the stewardship plans. I sent them to Michael. Michael signed them, and then I sent them off to the email. So I never got a confirmation email. I should just ask for a receipt. I forgot to do that, but they were sent off to the link. And Shelby brought up a good question about it because Jeff also realized that since we had a previous plan in, 2012, I think, for the forests, he talked to the person who is running the program right now and asked about that. And the person who's running it said to submit it as is anyway, because we're right around the 10-year mark where it's like right on the verge of needing an update. But also because since the 10 years had passed, they had added or have added in the last couple of years the climate change part of it. He was talking to the person running the program, and he said he might be able to do it for that part of the component.
Okay.
But he said submit it anyway, and then we'll if we get selected, we'll talk about it more. But I just want to let you know that's in. Then any questions about that before?
I just want to note the 2012 one was a forest management plan, not a stewardship plan. I don't know if it makes any difference, but because in the proposal they had those separate. Have you had a previous management plan? Have you had a previous stewardship plan? So it makes some kind of difference. God knows what.
Right. So they said submit it, but Jeff seemed to think that plans are piling up right now because they're not. Right now they're holding all of them because they're working on the program, and then they're going to do it. So we're in line in a waiting list, it seems like, for the moment. So we'll see where that develops. Then updates for the farmers market. I talked to Stuart last week, and he seemed to have about a half dozen interested participants. He's still working on a big anchor who no one has really committed. So I talked to him about coming to the our February meeting, because I said, why don't you try to put a deadline on people, because people just aren't getting back to him yet. And I think between the holidays, the season ending, they're just like me, I'm recovering from the season. So I said, give them a hard date by the end of January to kind of get back to you. So he's working on that. Other than that, I might invite him to the January meeting to talk just a little bit more, because he did a lot of work over the summer with Heaton Court, and it seems like it's continuing.
Oh, good.
So he's getting a lot of food directly into people's hands, which
This is the mobile?
this is not the Mobiles Farm Market, through Berkshire Bounty.
Okay.
So I think it'd be good to have him come in January and talk more about that, and see and explore what that means and what that could tell if that's something we want to help support him in that role more, because he kind of took that on to just get going with
And
getting food into.
who's paying for that?
So Berkshire Bounty is doing all the food. He's supporting the coordinating.
Okay.
And he used a little bit of his hours allotted to him to do that, which we talked about with Michael, to support him to do that. So, but he is also interested in looking at grants, the mobile market, if the farmers market doesn't work out. But I think it's been a really good thing for him and a good thing for Heaton Court. So
Nice.
I'm going to look to January for him to kind of report back and sum that all up. So, but that's just the minor update for now. Any questions? Okay. All right, moving right along. So I think we got a lot to talk about with composting. Tonight, two things have happened between Lisa getting information from the Sheffield composting program and me and Abigail having a talk with Mark Buffoni, correct, Abigail, last name?
Yep.
Yeah, Buffoni, at the transfer station. Mark,
It's Mike.
there's Mark and Mike, right?
But Mike Buffoni, and I forgot Mark's last name.
So, and the funny thing is I ran into Mike the other night at coaching swimming, and he was there for the swimming tutorial for the high school. I ran into Mike, but we also talked to Mark. So we kind of had run-ins to both of them. So there's kind of a lot of report backs, but a lot to discuss. So, but I figured we'd start with the Sheffield.
Okay.
If you wanted to share what you've gleaned.
Yeah, so I spoke to Renee Wood, who I think she's the select board chair. If not, she's a select board member in Sheffield, and she was one of the people that got it going in Sheffield. She was really happy with the program. She said they use Berkshire Compost, which is a women-owned composting company, local. They pick up 4 times a week from the transfer station because of bears. She asked if there would be space in Stockbridge for the compost to stay there. I don't know. She said in Sheffield, the drop-off and the pickup is 4 times a week, so it doesn't stay there. And it's delivered to Stanton Farm. It's paid for by sticker fees. They had initial costs, and she said they use grants for initial costs, but the ongoing cost is paid for by transfer fees. And what I didn't ask her was whether people just paid specifically for composting or if everybody's transfer fee, it was included so they could compost when they want. That's a further question I could ask her. She said if you go with Berkshire Compost, they provide the bins, they provide signage. They don't allow any plastic bags. She encouraged me to look at composting material from Cornell. She said there was a lot of good information coming out of Cornell about how to do it. They also provide attractive containers for home use. I don't have any pictures, but she said they were nice containers. And she encouraged me to contact Juliet Haff, Haff, who's the town clerk in Egremont. And I don't know if that means Egremont is doing it too, or if Egremont is composting in Sheffield. But she said New Marlborough is also doing it. I don't know if they use the same company, but that's what I learned. And she was very excited that we were interested.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, and I feel like everyone's doing it, like you're pointing to. Everyone's starting.
Yeah, which is great.
It's important.
So, Abigail, do you want to kind of give a primer for what Mark kind of gleaned or told us?
Sure. Yeah. We talked to Mark Saturday evening. We talked about a lot, but generally he's definitely for compost, and he seems like he's excited that we brought this to him and that we want to start it up in Stockbridge. And we mentioned the big concerns that people have had are the bears and the smell, but I think we agree that as long as the hauler would be able to pick up the compost regularly and not let it sit there, that hopefully both those issues shouldn't be a problem. He also said Obviously they don't have a lot of space at the transfer station, but I don't think he thinks that's a limiting factor, so, but we're interested to see what the hauler would suggest for the number of bins we'd need based on how many people we think we would be bringing their compost. Um, and then he said he'd be able to wash them out on the days that he works. Let me think. Talked for a while, so what am I missing?
No, that's good. That's the highlights. I feel like,
Yeah.
basically, he brought up the big concerns: bears, space, smell. And like you said, the space, he wasn't, felt very confident in finding a space, he's done so much work there recently with the swap shop, the clothes bins. He's gotten a lot of that done and organized. But he did bring up, he's there 5 days a week. So he, 2 days a week, there's someone else there so basically it's more about a management of the schedule of pickup, because he didn't want to put it onto the person that's there when he's not there to move bins. And when he's there, he felt confident about being able to spray them out.
I don't know if they take the whole bin and replace it. That was my impression from the way Renee described it, that everything gets taken. We can ask her for more information.
For more information.
Yeah.
And I think that, that really gets down into like, the day-to-day operation, which I think Mark seemed he was really interested in this, composting. So, him figuring out how to make the system really work, because he was saying even the potential that he was like, maybe there's a chance that I have to bring it in at night to make sure so that bears aren't attracted. But, that was all hypothetical.
The other thing Renee had said was Tommy's, I mean, she said they use Berkshire Compost in Sheffield, but Tommy's that we use at Riggs, and that I think you use, Eric, they do municipalities. So she gave me their contact information. I said, let's wait. I wanted to see what what people wanted to do. But if they do municipalities, she may have a plan for
Exactly
how to do that.
And I think, Mark, wanted to do some investigating, call around, making sure, he's up to date on everything. And then wants to eventually, once we have all the numbers and everything, bring it to the select board, and he wants to talk to them about it and put it forward. So, and I basically, my vision too for us was the educational component. So like talking about Cornell, finding the pamphlets, and that's another thing Mark brought up was like the education. I don't think we have to rewrite anything. I don't think we have to make anything new. Composting's been around a minute. It's just a matter of finding the right pamphlet and finding the sign, and then helping with the education part of it. That's what that was another big concern of him, was making sure people were composting incorrectly. And so the one thing that I thought might be good to gauge and help kind of get data to figure out how to make this work was just making a simple Excel spreadsheet, and not call it a sign up. I don't know what else to call it. I don't want to have people think they're signing up for composting, but sort of like just an interest list. Who's interested in it, to get a rough idea of how many residents would be interested in signing up, just so we can gauge the amount of compost. Because I think, to Mark's point, he brought up the fact that he would be more interested in starting in the winter time with fewer people in Stockbridge, just having the year-round residents, rather than trying to implement it in the middle of summer. And also with the heat and stuff like that, it would be very stressful on him. So that was one ask that he definitely put forward. That'd be nice to do when there's lower traffic to the transfer station. But then he also offered up, he thought that a lot of people who come here in the summertime, and if they're coming from the city, have been composting already for some time, because a lot of cities, bigger cities have already been implementing these strategies. So he kind of, for his sake, to figure out the process, he asked that it would be a good idea to do it sometime in a winter start, rather than start at midsummer when 6,000 people are crammed into the transfer station. Which I think Mark has a good sense of what works and what doesn't work there.
I think it would also be a good idea to do a site visit to Sheffield and actually see it and see what it looks like. Would you want to go, Abby?
Yeah, I mentioned that I'd be home this Saturday, so we told him we may be able to stop by.
In Sheffield?
Oh, in Sheffield. I thought you meant Stockbridge.
No, in Sheffield, I think whether or not we do it this Saturday, but I think it'd be good to see Sheffield
Saturday.
so we can actually see it.
See it in practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe that'd be good, we could have Mark, if you go visit one of these places, take pictures so Mark can maybe see the setup. So we can envision it. But I think, to that point too, is I feel like, Mark, I was worried Mark would have really big problems. But it seems like something that's coming down the line in the waste management stream. And Mark has implemented so many diversions out of the stream already that he seemed very, very keen about investigating.
I didn't realize.
Lisa,
Yep.
Yeah.
what does Riggs do in terms of containers for Tommy's compost, and where do they store it?
It's a good question. We have started just with the actual kitchen, where patients eat, the preparation for that food. So everyone is not composting yet. They're just doing the kitchen scraps. And I think they have a container in the kitchen that she picks up. So it's starting small to see how it goes, and then gradually it will be more.
Is it like a dump,
I can find out. I don't know.
Bin?
I don't know the size, but I can find out.
The one that because I use her service, is a
Yep.
5-gallon container.
And that's weekly pickup
No, I get it every other week,
every other week.
but there's only 2 of us, so, it's
Yeah.
not a big deal.
I'm happy to see what I can find on the Cornell website. too.
Yeah. And my run-in, with Mike, I guess back 20 years ago, there was a dream of, some of the towns getting together and doing a big composting facility like the one they have up in Williams, who works with the school and works with the town. And they do a bin. They, offer a bin, and that's kind of your purchase into the program. You buy the bin. That's the way they keep track of it. So you buy your 5-gallon bin, and then that's, your cost to enter the composting. But I don't know how that works from there on out. If that's you return the bins at the end of the year, or I don't know.
I'll find out what we do.
Yeah.
So I can't go this Saturday, but I can contact them, or you can contact them and see. It's probably better if you do, because your schedule you're not always here.
We could also do a different Saturday, because I'm home for the winter now, so not too many.
But let me check their hours. I'll check on their hours and I'll get back to you. Is that okay if we do that? I'm not sure what hours they're open, but I'll check.
So I think, action items for that. If you get a site visit in, Mark I'd like to talk to Mark again once he has some more information and has thought about some things some more. And maybe go see him, go see see him at the transfer station. And I will put together just a very simple sheet, an interest sheet that he said he has clipboards and he has a perfect spot for it. And he'll just put it out and, point towards it. And maybe I'll make a hand-drawn sign or something. Just keep it simple and try not to get people confused about thinking they're signing up to compost. That's the biggest concern I had, was I don't want people getting frustrated that they thought they were signed up for composting or something. But just so he can have numbers and figure out how much volume it would be, because like you said, Eric, like 2 people, 5-gallon bucket every other week, so times that by however many people we get signed up, can give a good gauge of what we're looking at. Any other thoughts, comments?
What are we thinking of? If you're thinking to start the winter of 24?
I think it's more, now I'm kind of, I don't want to push Mark. Mark is.
I don't want to push anybody, I'm just wondering what.
I think Mark, will be the one who says when it's ready, but I think it's also got to go to the select board and we got to talk about it to make sure, because it's,
Definitely.
there is eventually, theoretically, there will be money passing hands somehow from either residents with decals or buckets or something. So I feel like it might not be it might be 2024, 2025, if that's what Mark's feels comfortable with, for strategy and make sure that it's feasible. But Mark could turn around tomorrow and call me up and say, like, I think we go to the select board next week, and everything will work out this way, this way, this way.
Probably not.
I don't know. I think as long as we just stick to educating and supporting them, and yeah. All right. All right, not hearing anything else. Moving on to affordable housing, which, Patrick, you're here. If you want to just come up and sit at the other end of the table. So we had this brought up at the last meeting by Patrick White. But I do seem to remember we also had a meeting a while ago where a couple fellow farm crew came from my farm to talk about their housing search. That was last year. It's been a long time since that. And they brought up their search for housing in the Berkshires, especially coming from out of state. So I realized that, and I tried to go back and haven't found the exact date yet.
Okay.
But I knew someone would be able to find it. So, Patrick, if you just want to give the
Sure.
preamble for all this.
So, I have to just read the paper and see that there's housing challenges in the Berkshires, and those are, amplified when demand is highest, which is of course in the summer, which happens to be the time of year when, things grow. Yeah, that's right. That's what we do here. And so, one of the ways that the governor has elected to prioritize her solutions for the housing crisis is to propose that every single family home can have an accessory dwelling unit, which is basically like a granny apartment, a granny flat or whatever, or granddaddy. I don't know what it is. I don't want to be sexist here. And above the garage or something. It's basically a secondary unit that is on the property. So, I thought that, that you had, Matt, had really interesting insights into, trying to think through whether or not the needs of, let's say, a small farm might be a little bit different than that. For example, perhaps we could suggest to the state as they're trying to work this out. So the proposal the governor's made is going through the various committees now. We have to go through like the housing committee. There's both a House and a Senate at the State House. So there's two sets of committees that review everything, and then finally they all hash it out and in their process and bring something to the governor to sign if they elect to. But as they're doing that, one might be able to suggest that, for example, maybe having the ability to do more units if you were a farm in exchange for perhaps not allowing them to be rented on Airbnb or some other platform that is intended to make the most money rather than provide the most housing might make sense for migrant workers or others who might temporarily want to come up to Berkshires and work on a farm. And I thought that was a really great idea. And I said, let's do it. So I contacted, I've been working with the woman who's a state senator who's appointed by the governor as the director of rural affairs. Her name is Ann Goby. And Ann has agreed to meet with Matt and me and anybody else who wants to join us Friday around 5 o'clock on Zoom to talk about this idea. And so, if you guys want to, if you think it's a good idea, I got us a meeting. So, hey, let's have the meeting and see if we can get any traction if you think it's a good idea. I think it's a great idea personally, but what do I know? I always think the Red Sox are going to win,
One problem you're going to have, a lot of the farms have APRs on them, which are development rights purchased by the state, and do no construction. Zero on the farm that has an APR.
Yeah. Is that based on federal law or state law?
That's state.
Yeah. So, here's the thing. The only people who can get around a conservation restriction in the state of Massachusetts is the state and the governor. The only people that can get around taking a document from 1870, or before 1870, like we had with those Mohican documents, and allow a town to get rid of them is a bill by the state signed by the governor. I said bill by the Senate and House signed by the governor. So I understand that might be an impediment, but I think that I hope anyway that folks maybe they'll do a carve out to conservation restriction law or ADR law, whatever it's called, and maybe they won't. But it doesn't hurt to ask. The worst thing we can get is no, we can't do it.
The problem is this came in like the 1980s. So if your father did an APR, agricultural preservation rate, APR, yeah. He said, okay, well, the barns are out and the house is out, everything else is in. And then the son comes along. Where's he going to put his family? Where's he going to put his workers? Some people figured that out and kept a piece out of the preservation rate. But they have been unwilling to address that, and they know it's a problem.
Okay, and who's the they here?
The state, would that be the state?
But I'm just saying, like, the state's got so many departments. Help me, because we're going to have half an hour with this woman who has the governor's ear. Help me, educate me as to who is it that knows about this and hasn't done anything yet about it? Because maybe they just didn't have enough juice to get it done.
MDAR, Massachusetts Agricultural Resources, administers the program.
And would they support a change, you think, or no?
That's a
Yeah. I mean, obviously, what they don't want to have is they let you put a new house on the protected farmland and it just gets sold yet again to somebody who's not going to farm. I'm sure that's what they're going to come back and say, we got to protect against. But, maybe they would support something like a restriction where people could only live in the property 6 months a year and they had to be doing farm. There had to be some minimum farm. Like to put it in Chapter 61, you have to prove you have crops and those crops get inspected periodically, right? Which is how you get much lower taxes if you're in Chapter 61. So maybe there's a way to,
Put a stipulation on it.
yeah, put a stipulation.
And I think, from our experience in hiring, one of the questions we always get is, do you have housing? And, we can never guarantee that. And we can point them, with the farm crew that came on a couple of years ago, a lot of them are from out of state, Tennessee, North Carolina. They moved up here, were able to find somewhere on Craigslist down in Great Barrington, but
For a lot of money.
yeah, and for the most part too, my own experience up until, the pandemic and even through the pandemic, I was living in ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, pretty much. Because, either it's that or you you rent out a whole house. And there's not many people that can afford renting out a whole house on a farm labor salary. So there was, either apartment above a garage or something like this that people would rent out for less.
And Eric, what do you think about if someone were to take their ADU and let's say it's adjacent to a farm or in the neighborhood of a farm and rent it out to a farm worker, maybe we could suggest a tax credit for that person because that person could presumably rent it for more if they were going to rent it to a seasonal like tourist. Maybe it's basically a tax credit idea. That's a good idea, actually. A tax credit for, community member to do an ADU rental for, during the harvest season. What are the months of the year? Is it, sorry, I can't even grow, daisies, let alone, vegetables. So do you guys need like workers all summer long or is there like harvest time where it's really intense?
So, really we get started in April.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when we really start. Mid-April, we start bringing people on. Early April, we have a few loyal people who come on first. And then we just finished last week.
And do you ramp up in the fall though, where it's out of the summer season?
But that's the unique thing about our farm is that we, go all the way into December and are packing stuff away. So the average farm, I think, usually ends maybe November, starts wrapping up.
Right, but my question really is in July and August, if there was less housing in the top of the season in the summer months, and then it was a fall program, for example, would that still help or is it you kind of need the help all year round?
You need the help.
Or all season long?
Yeah. The people that are attracted to the farming that's happening around here are going to be more attracted to an entire season.
Okay.
They're not coming. They're
Not coming for 2 months to pick a vegetable.
to pick apple. No. They're not passing through.
All right, sorry, this is my.
No.
We're all learning.
Yeah, okay.
To that, I found back in some of the talks we've had, the rural development, USDA rural development, came up with a fund for farm labor housing, direct loans and grants. Hasn't been funded since 2022, but it is for farmers, associations of farmers, family farm corporations.
There's no funding for it now?
As far as I know, I don't know if they've reinstated it, and I don't know when it will come back or if it will come back. Association for farmers, nonprofits, most state and local government entities, and federally recognized tribes. So this was to help fund and build housing for farm labor on farms or proposed projects. But again, I don't know if that will ever come back into existence.
So when you have folks who move up, are they typically living in dorm style living where there's maybe shared kitchen, shared bathroom, or is it like everybody kind of was looking for their own place?
Everyone looks for someone to live with, basically. Most of the people that have moved here will look for someone to live with to share rent costs.
Right, but if we were to advocate another way around the sort of like, you could rent it out as an Airbnb is to kind of do like dorm style, sort of like what they built with that converted motel in Great Barrington, where it's basically like everyone gets their own room, but they have a shared bathrooms and shared kitchen space. Maybe that could be another way to kind of, make it so that people don't game the system and rent them out.
That's possible.
Yeah,
That's possible. But I think to, I like to Eric's point, with the APRs and stuff like that to that's one option to try to push that and fight it back against that in some fashion. But also just getting ADUs in general to be accessible will help the market overall and help, there be options.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing is a lot of people, there's some people that have some pretty big home /space/land around. I think too, in my case, it was moving back home. And I think there's people that could move back home if there was a foothold to then, eventually do what I did. But it takes a lot, and it takes a lot of support. It took 10 years to really get that foothold, a firm foothold, to figure it out.
So does anybody want to join us on Friday afternoon at 5?
I would like to.
Okay.
Send me the
Sure,
link.
What?
Send me the
sure.
link.
Okay. All right.
We'll send the link to everyone.
Yep.
That begs the question if I need to make an
I would just go, just remember that we're brainstorming with the state leader. We're not deliberating, and we're not deliberating policies for the town of Stockbridge. This has to do with giving advice to the state. So I don't think there's any problem if a quorum of viewers is on. And if there is a problem, I will read the apology that the Attorney General's office will make us read in public session on your behalf. I don't want to put her on the spot in the public. I basically just want to brainstorm with her and raise your concerns with her. So let's I'll jump on who wants to, and But don't go and talk about the farmer's market when you're on my call. Kidding. All right.
Other thoughts, anything else that people thought of before coming here or had any other, the other thing, this kind of somewhat relates, just in general, another thing I've heard just from various farms around areas with zoning and stuff like that is when you get a tract of land or you have a field or something like that, a lot of farmers, want to immediately start farming the land before their house gets built, and I think for the minute percentage of farmers that are getting land right now, I think a big problem is to once you get the land, they want to start working on it. But if they want to put up a barn, I think I don't know what bylaw it is, but you can't put up an auxiliary building before you have your house. So if you have sheep ready to go, start grazing, or you want to start having a storage shed.
Really?
So I think this is.
I never would have thought of that, but
Yeah.
it's so obvious.
But and I think it was a good reason.
Sorry to interrupt, Matt. We have an
Yeah.
example of that now.
Yeah.
The family that has the sheep over at
Yeah, probably Lana. Yeah.
They own
Double video.
land up on Rattlesnake. And
Hmm.
they'd like to put a barn up for the sheep, but they can't
Yeah.
because they don't have the money to do the house and the barn.
And nobody in the town, can't they just apply for a special permit? I can't say ahead of time, but, just my guess is I'd vote for it.
I
Well, I
have no
think-
idea.
I
I'm
think-
not the zoning person.
Yeah, I don't know what the zoning is, but that's an interesting point.
It's a right to farm town though.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I would think because we voted as a town to be a right to farm town. So why can't we possibly, let somebody, say that we can't approve of, how can you be a right to farm if you need a barn to farm and you have no barn? I could write Dr. Seuss. Yeah, no,
Well, and that's
that's what you're saying.
That doesn't necessarily need
crazy.
to be part of the whole,
Okay, that's a really good one. Yeah.
but it's just good to know that, I feel like there are people that, for the amount of land that there is ready to go out there, it helps get a foothold, a toehold in doing it.
See, it's obviously an auxiliary issue too, ADU issue. Not dwelling, but an AU.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, or while we have Patrick pinned down here?
Oh, that's a great one. Do you want me to call? We should call down there. Let's call town council together and ask her about the barn for the sheep.
Okay.
I think it's all you can do is say, yeah, there's no way around it. But they're zoning experts, way more than us. We might as well just ask them. Doesn't hurt to ask. Some people can do say no, right?
All right.
So Patrick, are you going to ask town council?
Yeah, I think Matt and we should jump on a call. When you're free this week, call me and I'll call down. I'll patch down in.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk. If that sounds good to everyone.
I mean, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like in the spirit of why this committee was actually formed, it'd be good.
Yeah, well, also, the voters decided we were a right to farm town. So what does that mean, actually? Let's give people a right to farm, It's not, we're doing our job when we, advocate on behalf of what the expressed interests of the voters are. So there it is, civics.
All right, that being said,
The meeting when the farm workers came was June 6th,
June 6th.
2022.
June 6th. So if anyone needs a reminder, if you go back to June 6th, 2022, that we should find information from some farm crew. Awesome. Thank you for finding that. I was trying to search for it all. I was like, I don't have time to find it.
No problem.
All right. So that being said, next steps for that, we'll hopefully see people on Friday to advise and learn. Let's confirm our next date here.
Well, the first Monday in January is in fact January 1st.
So would the 8th work with everyone?
That's fine.
I will not be here,
Okay.
probably. Yeah. Someone else can take it.
Do you want me to take it?
Good.
Sweet. All right, January 8th.
Happy to get all A's.
I think I have all A's except for an 85, but
All right.
that's in a gen ed, so
All right.
I'm not too worried about it.
On that note, we'll put that in the official record. And I will make a motion to call this meeting to an end. Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.